I hope you're comfortable. And I know that we've all practiced before. We've had other practices. We felt wonderful during some of these practices. And sometimes when we enter into a practice, for example today, we know exactly how we want to feel. And sometimes those memories, they come back. And it's great if you can feel that right now. But sometimes we can also feel a little bit of impatience if we're not feeling that way right now. Let's enter into today's practice not being in any sort of hurry to get anywhere, to feel anything, to experience anything. Let's imagine that we have an infinite amount of time, and so there is absolutely no hurry to go anywhere, to feel anything in particular. An infinite amount of time, just like that infinite surface that surrounds the sea that we were talking about, that we had a glimpse of a few moments ago. An infinite amount of time. What does that feel like? As you imagine having an infinite amount of time, doesn't your body feel a little bit more relaxed? Because you don't need to go anywhere. And that is this practice. Because in this practice, we're going to constantly tap into reality. And the only reality is always the present moment, the now. And then if you wait a few moments, there's another now, and another now, and a now. And you begin to discover that we're always in the present moment. And that's the equivalent of having an infinite amount of time. So let's not chase anything. And you only have tense muscles and tight muscles when you have to chase or run or move. So I'll ring the bell so that I can just relax the different parts of my body. We just focus on the muscles, nothing else. Just begin with your shoulders. Feel your shoulders arriving into the present moment. Feel them drop, gravitate downwards. Find ease and rest, arriving into this moment, and then your shoulder muscles and your back muscles. Your stomach muscles and the digestive system within it. Lower back, upper back. All we're doing is arriving wherever it is you are, physically. In this practice, obviously, I will be talking you through it. You hear my voice. And you can listen. Or you can turn off the sound, because what's more important is our presence. The fact that we are sitting together. My words are of no consequence because you know how to practice. I know how to practice. We know how to be. But if you do choose to listen to my words, then you do not need to listen with your mind. And listening with the mind means listening to remember, to hold on, to reproduce. No, this is a practice where we listen to practice. And so we listen at a much deeper level. Some teachers say we listen with our heart, only because they're trying to point us towards that which is deepest within ourselves, which is present, which is beating in the present moment. And so nothing to remember, nothing to do, nothing to retain. It becomes easier, doesn't it, this practice? Just sit. Just breathe. Just be present. And we can turn this into a practice that is more special than any practice we've ever encountered before. Simply because this is a new moment. This is a new you. This is a new me. We have had experiences over the weekend. We have had experiences this morning. Every experience transforming us, changing us. And this is a practice where we learn how to heighten this awareness of our surroundings. Observe, notice, almost turning every experience into an experience that enhances our understanding of who we truly are. You see something you do not like, you're clearer than ever before that you would not like to repeat that particular experience. And so you release your focus. But in the contrast, you have seen and experienced what you would like to experience even more. There is kindness behind cruelty. There is light behind darkness. Every experience becomes an opportunity to experience the contrast and focus on the beauty where there is beauty before us. Let us remind ourselves of the tools that we have that will help us to tap into the present moment. These tools, they come with our bodies, our senses. They seem to affect almost or involve almost every single part of our body. Our skin, our sense of touch, this doorway into the present moment, our sense of hearing, all the sounds that come into our experience at this present moment, our doorway into this present moment, our sense of smell, our sense of touch, our sense of taste and sight. These doorways that we learn to activate. And yes, we do experience these. But what we're talking about, what this practice is about, is experiencing this present moment in its entirety, which means stepping outside of the mind, its memories, its imprints, and directly experiencing what we are experiencing. Because just like if we were, for some of us this is a reality, but we are in a very beautiful place, an empty beach with waves and the sea surrounding us. What sometimes happens is that we may be present in this place. For some of us, like myself, I'm in a room. I'm present in this space. But this room, this beach, wherever it is I am, palace or jail cell, it can feel very normal if we see it through our mind. Simply because the mind has memories of what this room looks like. Even at the beach, even at some exotic location, the mind has memories of what it's like to be in a beach, in a palace, in a room, in a cell. And it creates this whole story. And whatever we see, we may not truly see it. Because what we see, we will send the information directly to the mind. And the mind is like a library. We've created different shelves. One shelf says my room. One shelf for beaches. One shelf for family members. One shelf for a certain type of food. And so when we experience something in our present moment, we might extract that experience and store it directly into the mind without truly experiencing it. And whether you're in an exotic location or an exotic room, everything is exotic. Simply because everything is alive. The walls, made up of atoms and molecules, constantly changing from moment to moment, from day to day. The changes may be more subtle, but they are changing. And those great works of art, those paintings, those pieces of photography, those pieces of music, extracted from the present moment through eyes that looked beyond the surface, noticed every minute detail, the grains of wood, the shades of light reflecting off a bowl of fruit, the number of petals on a flower, the shades of green on a leaf, the waves on the surface of the sea, the wind brushing against the skin, stepping outside of the thought process and experiencing. And for some of us, we've become bored. Almost every single one of us, we sometimes experience boredom. And this is what boredom is, where we've stopped experiencing, and where the information, our experiences, goes directly into the mind. Let's experience what it feels like now to be seated here. Let's experience what it truly feels like to be seated here. I'll ring the bell, and then let us imagine ourselves stepping outside of our thoughts. And if you like, you can begin to imagine yourself standing on a stream right now. And this stream represents the thoughts and the mind. And so no matter what your experience is, all you can feel is the cold water brushing against your feet. You might see campfires, you might see beautiful flowers on the side, but what you feel is just the cold water. And because you've been standing here for so long, it almost starts to feel numb. The toes are beginning to go numb. But now I will ring the bell, and we will step outside of our thoughts and into these bodies which are seated here, wherever it is in the world you are. And let us experience every little aspect of it. I will talk you through it, but you can begin experiencing what it feels like to be here in this present moment right now. Stepping outside of that stream. Sometimes you might be right in the center of the stream, so it might take more than one step, it might take more than two steps, but see if you can visualize yourself climbing out of the stream. And arriving more fully into your body. And in this body, there is the cushion underneath you, the chair underneath you, the mat underneath you, or the mattress, wherever it is you are. Notice the way in which it cushions your body, the way in which it molds itself to the shape of your body. If you're outside, which some of you are, the sand, how it supports your body. The underneath of your feet, the soles of your feet. And you can for a moment just notice the technology that allows us to practice in this way. Open your eyes for a brief moment and just notice this incredible piece of technology in front of each and every one of us that allows us to connect in this way. Something we can so easily take for granted. And then there are the Wi-Fi or the internet waves around us, which are invisible to our eyes, which are enabling these devices to connect in this way. And we just release intentions of appreciation, thoughts of appreciation. Because thoughts are not our enemy. They're simply tools in this practice. We simply see them as tools. And so we're not here to fight or chase away any of these thoughts. Instead, we just notice. And then the skin. Today's temperature, something different about it. And so much, we spend so much money trying to bring comfort to our bodies. Soft clothing, towels, perfumes, homes. No matter how big or small your home is, no matter what labels your clothing carry, ultimately, it just comes down to the way in which it interacts with your skin. Everything else is a story. The label, the colors, the cuts. Let us explore our clothing now like never before. We stay in the most luxurious hotels. We would like to. The spas and the massages and all of that. All coming down to our sense of touch. So what is it that we can experience through our skin at this moment? Let's experience it like never before, opening up new dimensions to this experience. The folds of the clothing, the pockets of air trapped underneath the fabric, between the fabric and the skin. Which areas feel tight and which loose. The temperature, if there is sun falling upon your skin, the breeze, the stillness. The breeze can be as beautiful as the stillness. So which part are you experiencing? And then we just simply feel grateful for this ability to experience this. The way in which our nerves work. The way in which the nerves seem to connect skin, muscle, tissue to the brain. And begin exploring the sensations. If it was a breeze that you can feel, what it feels like as it brushes against the skin. If it is stillness that you can experience, notice what stillness feels as it rests upon your skin. And then the breath. Bringing your attention to the breath. Because now we'll use the breath as a tool. Because this is, after all, a practice. We've done this before. And so you'll notice even in practice, when you hear certain words like the breath, the mind might say, for some of us, not the breath again. I've done this. I know exactly what to do. But we remind ourselves that the breath is always with us. And I get the feeling that most of us, we don't feel any aversion to the breath. And we don't find the breath overly stimulating. And that is why the breath is such a wonderful tool in this practice. Because there is no aversion. Aversion causes the mind to be stimulated. And also, too much interest in something. Like when you watch a movie, when you listen to a very stimulating talk, you read an exciting book, it stimulates thought and gets the mind to move faster. But the breath, normally for most of us, there's no aversion and there's not too much enthusiasm about it. And so when we watch and observe our breath, when we experience our breath, we're still noticing something extremely important, something extremely precious, our most precious gift, something that can never be skipped. Because if the next breath doesn't come, it means our existence in this body is over. And so we treasure every breath. We learn to cradle every breath. And this process of observing the breath, because of its neutral quality, it helps us to quieten the mind. And so let us experience this flow of breath through our nostrils. The breath in, the breath out. Notice when I use the word in and out, how do you know it's the in breath? How do you know it's the out breath? It's because you learned what even this simple movement of air means. You learned it. You remembered. There's something in the memory and the mind that has shown us what an in-breath is, what an out-breath is. Inhalation, exhalation. And then we slowly begin to notice the mind beginning to align itself with the breath to discover which direction it's moving in. And because the mind is a very special tool, it can only usually do one thing at a time. In fact, it can only do one thing at a time. It might be fickle. It might be thinking of many different things, but they're always one after the other. Should I do this or that or this or that or the other? But at any one moment, at the present moment, it only has the ability to focus on just one thing. And so as it focuses on the direction of the breath, whether an in-breath or an out-breath, it leaves its thoughts, its memories, its projections into the future, and you begin to experience that infinite now, which is what this practice is about, being present. And now let's explore more of the sensations. Because in the present moment, There's nothing to compare, so there's no warmth, there's no cool, there's no humidity, there's no dryness, there's nothing except sensations in the present moment. And by exploring these sensations, we're inviting the mind, allowing the mind to be used as a tool in the deciphering and the understanding of these sensations, the experiencing, not the understanding, because that's a mind process, the experiencing of these sensations. And so what does the out-breath feel like? It's sometimes a lot more vivid, the experience of humidity and warmth as the breath moves outward, as it brushes against the upper lip. And what does an in-breath feel like? What smells accompany the in-breath? And today, which nasal passage are you using to breathe? Is it the right passage or the left passage? At this moment, right now. Let's continue to use the breath as a bridge between two worlds that we exist in. There's one world outside of us. And this is the world where you can hear all the sounds around you. Can you hear? For me, I can hear my computer. Today is... where I am, it's a relatively quiet day. I can hear a motor car outside driving past my window now. And so there's movement, not only the movement of the car, but different sounds emerging and disappearing. What about you? Let sound represent change, because they are constantly changing, aren't they? Even the sound of the waves or the wind. Our doorways into the present moment. Can you notice since we're at our exploring our sense of hearing, if sounds represent form, just like the clouds in the sky, just like the things around you, the sand, the furniture, your hands, your body, form. But what surrounds the form? Air, which we can't see. Perhaps those Wi-Fi signals, which we can't see, which exist in the space around us, around form. And with sound, what's around every sound? What exists around every sound? What allows every sound to be heard? It's the silence. What does that silence sound like? What does that deafening silence sound like? I think a Zen master once referred to silence as being the deafening silence. And if you can't hear it in the background, you might even hear it in between sounds. Because just like the space that surrounds our bodies, the silence surrounds every sound in between the gaps. My voice, my words only making sense because of the pauses and the silence in between the words and the sounds coming out of my lips. I mean, the silence is as precious as anything else that we can hear. And this, we spoke of clouds. We speak of the furniture, our rooms, the paint on the walls, the seats that we sit on. The seats that we sit on, the cushions, constantly changing shape. In time, over years, some of its shape may change, its form may change, the piece of furniture may need to be changed, the paint will peel off the walls, the color of the furniture may change. This world outside of us, where our relationships are, where our families are, where the conversations are. And just like the air, just like the internet waves, there are invisible areas where the thought exists as well, constantly changing. Let us allow the thoughts to also exist within this plane, or rather recognize that this is also the space where thoughts exist. Our opinions, our judgments, which are changing from day to day, from moment to moment, from second to second, depending on our experiences. And we've seen our judgments change, haven't we? Something we once thought was bad, now good. Something we once thought or judged as good, now not so good. And so this is one world that exists in our experience. Now, we bring ourselves back to our breath, which is the bridge which will connect, which does connect this world of change to a space that is unchanging. Let us see if we can tap into it. This unchanging space, it is where our in-breath will take us. You can visualize it if you like. Visualize the nasal passage as you would a bridge. As the surfaces of your body, no different from the surfaces of the ocean and the sea around you. You can visualize that. What do you see at the surface of the ocean? What can you notice? You don't have to open your eyes, just use your mind's eye. Waves. Waves, every ocean. The surface constantly moving. Many different points, an infinite amount of points constantly moving. A little bit like the world that surrounds us. I can't control that sound. Perhaps it might be a voice, a car outside my window, the waves, the wind, the birds, an alarm. My thoughts jumping into the past, into the future, that little stream. The thought stream constantly flowing. And then we breathe in. And this breath in, it takes us underneath the surface of this ocean, underneath the surface of the sea, into the stillness underneath. And let us breathe in now. Breathe in as deeply as you can. feeling the sensations of your breath as it brushes against all the surfaces that lead the breath into the body, including the windpipe all the way down into the stomach, noticing your stomach wall rise as you continue breathing in as deeply as you can, and exhaling and releasing as slowly and as gently as you can. So breathing in as deeply as you can, exhaling as slowly as you can. Highlighting the sensations as the breath enters and then leaves as it exits through your nostrils. Each in-breath taking you deeper and deeper into the stillness. That stillness, which some teachers refer to as that which is real. Real because it is unchanging. It is still. Unlike all that is occurring outside of us, including within our minds. And so we continue breathing. Notice your ability to tap into this area, this space, with the knowledge, with the understanding that this space has always been here. This space is real. Reality, that which is unchanging. And then as you surface, the world outside seems different. You allow the waves. You no longer find the need to control the waves. And when you do find yourself outside, on the surface of this ocean, you have magically understood how to surf through these waves, play with the waves, dance on the waves. The experience has changed. There is beauty. The breeze on the skin. The releasing of the need to control, but rather flowing through the waves. Looking up into the sky, seeing the clouds. The clouds can represent our thoughts, our mind. Noticing the space around the clouds, the gaps in between the clouds, just like that silence that exists around every sound. And then breathing in, becoming conscious and aware again of the breath. This bridge that connects these two worlds allows us to experience this world outside in a completely fresh and allowing way. Different people in our lives. We smile. We allow. We give up the need to control, expect, want them to behave in particular ways. Only because you begin to recognize that having dived into this unchanging stillness, that which is real, this stillness, you're beginning to understand that this very stillness exists within them, within all of them. Every single person you know, every single person that you haven't yet had the opportunity to meet. This wisdom, this infinite kindness, this understanding, you begin to also understand that sometimes we too get cut off from this unchanging stillness. We know that because we have experienced tears, we have experienced anger, frustration, all those emotions that feel less than perfect. And when I say less than perfect, I just mean disorientating, uncomfortable. When we experience it, they're just indications that we've lost this connection. But it wasn't that difficult. We got in touch with it. We are in touch with it, in fact. We are in touch with it right now. And so for all those around us, they too, in their own time, they will find this alignment. It's not for us to push and force. But just as we allow the waves, we will allow. We will surf over the waves. We will play with the waves. We will dance over them. We will listen to the music of the breeze and the wind and the sound of the birds, and we will dance to them. We will not tell them to go away. We will be in harmony with them, having touched this unchanging stillness and awareness and presence and whatever else you want to call it that is within. I will ring the bell now. An opportunity to stretch, to move, to have a sip of water, to adjust your posture before we enter into the last final few minutes of this practice. Any movement that represents kindness, how can you tell what kindness is? It just feels good. That's easy. That's it. We'll end with the final few minutes of just a visualization. I don't know how your practice was today, but the mind, it can be a very abstract subject because everything seems so real. Its images, its voices from the past, its projections into the future, so real. And so we once again imagine the mind as a stream, a thought stream. We call it the thought stream. I'm sure you've heard that being used many times. And so if you had a turbulent practice today. Or for all those times in your life where you felt helpless and being carried by duties and things like that, things you had to do, no different from being carried by the currents of this stream. And so we struggle and we fight against it, but now we have the tools, and so we breathe deeply. And it all begins with a single breath. You can activate your skin just to know that you're sitting here. You're not being carried away. You're not in the past, wherever it is your mind has taken you. You're not in the future, wherever it is the mind has projected you towards. You are here. You're seated here in front of your computers, on these chairs, on these cushions, wherever it is you find yourself. You breathe, and then you find that you are separate from the stream. And now it's time to breathe again and know that you are separate from the stream. And you relax your muscles, and then you notice that the stream is taking you, it's moving in a particular direction. It's moving downstream. And so you rest, you relax. Because sometimes we try to push against the current, and that's a lot of effort involved. But this is a practice of allowing, and we simply let go. Recognize that we are separate from this stream. Allow the currents to take us. And remember that it is a stream, so we cannot drown. It's not too deep, because we've been through so many experiences already in our lives, and we've made it this far, so it's not a dangerous stream. Now it's time to pick yourself up out of this stream, and so we stretch our legs down, and we laugh because we realize how shallow this stream is. How caught up we were in this whole drama, the story. We laugh because it's been so long. And now we climb out of the stream. So easy. And then we take a few steps away from the stream. We listen. We can hear its gurgling and its bubbling, and we look back at the stream, now with a significant amount of space and distance between ourselves and these thoughts, these streams. We see the different colors. We see the reflections of light. We see little pieces of garbage, even driftwood, things that are unpleasant. But we don't try to pick them out right now. We just allow them to float by. Because we have stepped outside of this stream. We are not those pieces of garbage. They're not a part of us. Nothing of the stream. It was once because of habits of identification. But now we have stepped outside of it. We allow it to flow. And then we find ourselves sitting and breathing exactly as we are right now. In this position you find your body in. Right now. Present, aware, witnessing, breathing. I will ring the final bell. Final only because it marks the end of our hour together. But in actual fact, the beginning of the practice, where we will experience the world above the surface of this ocean. This ocean that is our skin. Everything around it, movement, change, no longer attempting to control, allowing, witnessing, being, with the knowledge that we now have the ability to simply breathe in and tap into the stillness, which will allow us to experience all of these movements, these people, our mind with more kindness, patience, wisdom, and a combination of all of that. Resulting simply in a knowing. And that's what makes this practice special. It's an experience. It's a knowing that we carry with us, not a memory.